and welcome to Axel's Garage. We're back at it with the IROC and this weird problem that we think is a distributor problem. We will see. So what we got in the box is a Cardone. Alright, so I don't know if Cardone is a national brand or not, but up here I remember in my days of working, 40 years ago in auto parts places and 30, 40 years ago, Cardone was a popular replacement brand that the wholesale auto parts stores used to send to the mechanics for replacements like, distributors and all kinds of stuff. So other than the Chinese Fujigawa replacement distributors or the higher end performance replacement distributors that were pretty pricey, this one came in right around 90 bucks or so, 90, 100 bucks. I felt that this one was the safe bet. I didn't want to go with the Chinese, and there was no reason I needed anything, crazy, performance or high performance kind of distributor. So this one came, I'll link it in the description, right? It comes complete with a gasket, cap, rotor. It's already got the cap, rotor installed. It's got the ignition control module on it, which some people said, hey, it could be your ignition control module, and I would tend to agree in a way. It could be my ignition control module, but the reason why I didn't think it was my ignition control module was because of how consistent the problem was. You let it idle, and after a certain amount of time, something works. And it wasn't temperature related, it wasn't time, it wasn't ambient temperature, just something clicks. So that's why I think it was a mechanical problem in the distributor, not an electronic problem. Fingers crossed. We don't know that to be for sure. But that's my reasoning behind it. So I'm just going to take all this out. All right, here's the distributor, the gear, got the gasket, cap, ignition control module is here, brass contact cap. So I'm going to pull the cap off because you need it off to go in, and we have to figure out how to take the old one out and put the new one in, keeping the timing pretty certain. So there's a couple of little things. You could start fresh. You could take out the number one plug, get the number one cylinder up to top dead center on the compression stroke and start fresh. Have the rotor point at number one, put it all together and go. Or I was doing some thinking, and I believe I can make some marks on the original setup and use those reference marks, putting this one together and get me in the right spot. I might have to adjust the timing, a little bit here or there to get it to my 8 degrees where I like to run this one. However, I think I could get it, rock solid, and I'll show you that as we take it out. Remember, it's the rotor pointing in the right direction that's going to give you your proper firing sequence. So you got to have that rotor in the right direction, and the base is going to be your timing adjustment. So if we get that close to where that one is, this base, then we'll be within, a degree or 2 or 3 timing wise, and then we could adjust it once we get it running. So I'll take you through that process as well. In the meantime, I'm going to get everything ready, move the camera, we'll show you what we're doing. Okay, so with the cap removed, I could actually show you what's going on. So here's the rotor, right? Rotor spins, but as you drop it in, these gears have to mesh with the gear, the drive gear, which is on the camshaft. So when you drop it in, just before you get it, so now you say you have the rotor pointing at the plug that you want it to be pointing at. When you drop it in, when those gears mesh, this is going to move one way or the other. So it's going to spin. So that's your first thing, is you got to make sure when you're dropping it in, you have it this way a little bit, so that as it meshes in, it comes, and it's when it's sitting down all the way on the manifold right here and it's all the way in, it actually turns, and it's its resting place is at the one you're turning it at. On the base of the distributor, the whole thing is where you're going to adjust your timing. So we're going to use this ignition control module, this groove in it where the cap sits. We're going to use that as our reference. So what my thought process is, I'm going to put a tool that fits in here, you know, a thin piece of metal, screwdriver, or whatever I might have laying around, and I'm going to go on the car and I'm going to lay it in there and see where it touches the firewall, and I'm going to put a mark on the firewall. So now I know where the distributor should sit. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the rotor. Wherever the rotor is in the car, I'm going to lay something in the groove here and have it come up over and have it touch the firewall, and that's going to give me my correlation to getting this rotor in the exact position that one is in once it's installed. It'll make more sense when we get over to the car. All right, so what I've done here is peel back the onion, so to speak. We got the cap flopped over onto one side. I disconnected the wires going to the driver's side, which is 1, 3, 5, and 7. I disconnected the coil wire, so that allows me to take the cap, leaving all the evens connected so I don't lose my reference on firing order, but I can get it out of the way to give me some room. So now with the cap removed, okay, you could see I have this screwdriver laying right in the rotor. So there's the rotor. Okay, it's pointing at whatever post would be right here on the distributor cap. We don't care what number it is. We just want to know which one it's at. So if I take the screwdriver and center it, okay, you could see where it's touching the firewall, right? There's 2 dimples on the firewall. It's sort of just to the right side of the right dimple right there, if you look at the tip of the screwdriver. So I'm going to put a dot with a Sharpie right there, and now I know when I put the new one in, I need the rotor going like this. Now, the next groove, now what's going to determine where this rotor is sitting is the mesh of the distributor gear on the distributor to the mesh of the distributor gear on the cam. So if I'm off a tooth on the gear, it's never going to be here. It's obviously going to be over that way, or it's going to be over that way. So this, even though there's wiggles in here, it's going to be close enough where you're going to know if you're in the right spot. Because if you're missing a gear this way or this way, if you misalign the mesh, you're going to know it's never going to be here. It'll definitely be over a little bit, or be over a little bit that way. You'll see it. So I'm going to put a dot up there. All right, so now you can see I put my little blue dot on the firewall where that screwdriver comes in. All right, and people will often say, hey, just go with that second divot, you know, or just remember. You got to remember, you know, these projects sometimes take a turn, meaning I could be working on this and all of a sudden baby mama calls me inside, or the kids call me, and I don't get back to this for 2 weeks, and I'm never going to remember. So at least now, no matter how much I have it apart, I know I'll remember, and it'll be right there. Okay, so now I can take my screwdriver out. That's all I used that screwdriver for, was just to set that up. Now we want to do the same thing, but we want to do it on the base of the distributor. So coming around to the other side, you can see I have this flat, it's sort of like a pry tool, laying in the groove where the ignition control module has that groove that the cap sits in. So that's going to be the same in both distributors. So I'm looking to see where it's touching the firewall, and I'm going to put a little blue dot there. Now when I put the new one in, I could put this same tool in that same groove in the new one, and I can turn the base of the distributor until I'm there, and I know that's my starting point for adjusting my timing once we get it all back together. Hope that all makes sense for everyone. All right, so what I did was I popped the coil out. The reason why I popped the coil out is because of this guy here. So I forget what this guy is. It's vacuum controlled, something or other. There's a wire plug in the back. Whatever it is, it doesn't work. It's an emissions thing. It's disconnected, but we need to have it plugged into the the vacuum lines are actually disconnected in this vehicle, but we need to have it plugged in so that you don't throw some stupid code or whatever, and that gives you a lot clearer access to that bolt there. That bolt is a pain in the ass to get at with that vacuum thing. I haven't been able to find a any tool that will get in there, distributor wrench, anything like that. There's just no room to turn it. So now you have good access. Like I said, it's called peeling that onion back to get in there, and now I can loosen that up. I actually have to take that out completely and the hold down. So now with the distributor wrench on it, I can use that and loosen it up. Once you break it free, hopefully it should come out fairly easy. Then you can reach down in there with your hand and screw it off the rest of the way. All right, there's the bolt, the hold down. All right, so now with everything out of the way, that distributor should be free to come out. So I'm gonna pull it straight up. Hopefully I'm not gonna hit this part of the firewall before I can turn it. So watch the rotor as I pull it up, because that rotor, you'll see it as it, see it turn? It's turning because it's meshing with the gear. So when we put the new one in, now we have to remember here, we want this one pretty much facing almost the middle of the manifold, just a little to the passenger side right here, and then as we push it down, it'll turn itself into the position where we want it. All right, and then we wiggle it out, and we could squeak it out past the firewall, not a big deal. It's messy and full of oil on the bottom, which is fine. All right, so now with the distributors out, looking at it, here's my original. All right, now, if I hold the bottom and hold the gear, right, this is the advance, right? That's the movement for the advance, and it is gritty and tough. Now, if I take the new one and I hold it down here, it is smooth like butter. So I think that was our problem. All the rust and corrosion that built up in here. I tried spraying it with penetrating oil and anything I could, and I couldn't get this to move right. So this distributor is probably still good. I bet that this part could be replaced. Not sure. We could definitely continue to clean it and soak it and see if this moves up, but I'm betting that this was the problem. And eventually, from spinning and spinning and spinning, it finally moves enough to give me the advance I need, and then boom, it works. That's what I think the problem was with this distributor. So here on the new distributor, really the only prep that we need to do is a little assembly lube I use on the gear. You could just put motor oil on it, any kind of grease, just so the new gear, you know, wears in appropriately. I happen to have a tub of assembly lube, so if you have it, you might as well use it. All right, so I'm going to take the distributor. All right, we know that the rotor needed to be somewhat facing the front of the manifold there, you know, favoring the passenger side, and want it to drop in all the way, facing this way, and I think we got it. It's in all the way. Right, so how that rotor turned and is facing me now, right? So Put my screwdriver back in my rotor, and I am right where I want to be. Alright, here's my screwdriver in, and it's going right to my blue dot that I have on the firewall. So now I can take my hold down and my bolt, and I could fish that in. I did put a little white grease on the hold down. You can use Never Sees, which, you know, makes a mess, but I put that in there because that bolt tends to get a little grungy. And I'm just gonna snug it. Nothing too crazy, just like if you could get a good finger on it, it would be finger tight. All right, so now I'm going to adjust the timing, but not really. I'm gonna try to get it back where I had it. So, damn wire keeps coming down. So I'm gonna take my tool that I had, and I'm gonna turn the distributor. And I'm gonna lay this in. Okay. And I got that tool in there, just like I had it before, and it's hitting my blue dot that I have on the firewall. So I know my timing is gonna be close here. Not gonna be dead on, but it's gonna be close. I'm gonna take this, I'm just gonna give it a little bit more of a tighten. Just so nothing moves. And now at this point, I could hook up my essential stuff is what I'm gonna do. So that vacuum doodad there, I don't care about that. All right, I got this wire back here. All right, this guy goes in the back of the ignition control module. And this wire for the coil goes in the other side of the ignition control module. All right, I could leave that there, and now I can put my cap on. All right, so I'll bring my cap around, get it in the groove, and I can tighten that down. All right, so now with the cap tight, I'm just gonna sit my rotor. I'm gonna sit my coil right here. I'm gonna take my two coil wires, get them in, and I'm just gonna lay the coil right here because I still need to put that vacuum thing back, but I have to tighten that. I have to tighten the distributor nut all the way, and I can't do it with the coil there. So we'll just leave the coil there like that. Now I just got to put my other wires on the other side and give it a once over, and we should be able to start this thing. So my number one goes here, and you know, normal small block Chevy, old school firing order 184-36572. So 184-36572. You notice the odds are the ones that are missing. Goes clockwise when looking down at the cap. I'll put a picture in for you.